I don't want to speak to
Do you own this facility?
I do own the facility.
Okay. I believe that you're being extremely cruel to the animals in there. You don't want to defend yourself?
You can listen to all the lies that you like.
Oh my God.
I prefer not to be on camera.
All right, stop rolling. Point the cameras down.
We know that we're never going to agree.
So you're the owner, you're the animal welfare officer. So what do you do to make sure the animals are not being caused extreme suffering?
So we're currently in the trees. There's a slaughterhouse just over there. Got Tarian with me. She's going to be my eyes out. There's some workers that are asleep right next to the slaughterhouse. But if we're really super quiet, I should be able to go without any worries.
This is a different kind of investigation for me, partly because it comes with complications.
Okay, so I'm currently in a halal slaughterhouse here. This is where they process the sentient beings. This is where their bodies are hung. That's where the blood drops down into. Is there still blood down there? Oh my God. Crazy.
Complications because if my cameras reveal anything outside the bounds of what is already horrific slaughter, it could be picked up by the far right to stoke anti-Muslim hate, which I'm against. But halal methods are often purported to be quote-unquote respectful to animals. And if my footage finds different, then a lot of Muslims are being lied to. And in turn, a lot of innocent animals are suffering. And I'm here for the animals. So despite the complications, of course, I'm going ahead. Ali, a small village in the English countryside near Coventry. For over 100 years, a slaughterhouse has operated here, providing locally sourced meat to the people of the area. But following a recent change of owner, many residents are upset. The story even made it to the Daily Mail. My involvement began with an email from the head of the local pressure group. She believed there could be serious animal cruelty issues under the new ownership. So I headed to Ali.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Jesus.
Another day.
That's so up.
Oh, nice.
I wanted to confront the owner over the cruelty claims.
Hello?
No answer. But there were plenty of locals willing to talk to me.
Yes, we're having an awful lot of trouble.
Oh, really?
We had an abattoir before, which was Rowley's. The gentleman that owned it lives next door.
Yep.
And it was fine. It was okay. There was little trucks coming, horse boxes. You didn't hear anything.
Shopped here, bought our meat here. And I'd lived here for about 3 years, I guess. I had no idea they were slaughtering animals. It was that
Oh, you said it was very
discreet.
So you didn't know, and it didn't.
No
it
smells,
didn't
no
impact your life
noise.
at that.
Never saw any live animals going in there. But then when we started seeing hundreds and hundreds of sheep being delivered, 2,000 a week, from 250 animals a week.
Yeah.
You're talking about, I think, 30, 40-ton vehicles, 3-tier vehicles. And it's loud. Sometimes it's 6:30 in the morning that we have vehicles.
Yeah.
Some of the residents had posted their security footage online to make their point. But it seemed that others just didn't have a problem.
I never even hear the sheep.
Yeah.
When I used to live right here, when the old butchers owned it, I lived above this building. Yeah. And it was sometimes like 6, 7 in the morning. It was actually quite loud with the noises and things like that.
Yeah.
Not to say that the animals were being abused or anything like that, but it was a lot noisier. You don't hear any noise from here anymore.
And then the smell. You know, I'm a gardener. I haven't been able to use my garden all year. Haven't let barbecue.
So you haven't been able to have an outdoor barbecue or anything
Nothing.
because of the smell coming from this slaughterhouse?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, interesting.
The next door neighbour, but one over there, he's suffered quite a lot with the stench.
When they first moved in and they got something wrong with their storage and the smell was quite bad.
Yeah.
Like that's like, you know, I'm happy to say that. And again, I spoke to the gentleman about it. We had like several conversations. He's actually a very, very nice man.
The
Like,
owner?
you know,
You're talking about the actual owner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually a doctor. He's a well thought out person.
So why the polarised opinions about noise and smell levels? Was there actually something else going on here?
You think it's like something to do with the fact that this is a halal slaughterhouse and
That's
not the fact...
100% exactly what it is.
No.
This is why there were petitions before these guys opened. So they didn't even know how much they were going to be doing, but yet they were petitioning against it.
Because it's halal.
Because it's halal.
That is so unfair.
Yeah.
That is not the case.
No.
That is not the case.
It doesn't matter who it is, if they're doing something wrong,
Oh,
to
100%,
animals,
yeah.
then everyone should be
Did actually just get the smell.
Yeah, there's a little bit. It wasn't.
It does
I
every
smelt
now
it
and
here, and it comes past.
It does every now and then, but that's not
I had a
new.
fear
That's
about what you're
always a
saying.
thing.
I did have a fear about that, and there's been a lot of like Tommy Robinson bullshit in the thing, and I thought, I hope that this isn't something like that, because I'm not here to fuel any of that.
The FSA confirmed to us in May this year that it was a non-stun facility, which causes real concern with regard to animal welfare.
Don't you think they would have been closed if they had any sort of like animal rights breaches going on?
That's actually a very good point. Do you think they should be closed if there's anything going on in there that shouldn't be?
100%. If anybody's breaking the law or doing something bad, then yeah, of course it should. Yeah.
Okay.
But I just don't believe that these people are doing that.
Then, while I was talking to the locals,
He's talking to a neighbour over there now. That's the owner.
This is the doctor that owns the facility, you believe?
It might be, yeah. I can't see because he's got a hood on.
Well, he was sitting on this vehicle here that has the halal.
Seems like it.
No, that's his vehicle.
That's his car.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe he might talk to us.
the owner had declined to comment for any other media outlet.
Hey, bro.
Maybe I could get him to give his side of the story.
Did you want to have a chat, brother?
Can I ask who you are and where you're from?
Me?
I can ask you not to be on my ground, sir.
Where's your property start, brother?
So you can see me now.
Do you want to have a chat with me?
Not really, man.
My name's Joey. How do you know?
I've seen your documentary, the one that you done.
Ignorant?
I prefer not to be on camera, that's fair, sir.
But we're going to hear from everyone else. It'd be nice to hear from you.
No, it's fine. You can speak to who you like. I'm not really too fussed. But I won't speak on camera.
We're making a piece about this place.
That's absolutely.
You don't want to defend yourself?
There's no. You can listen to all the lies that you like. No problem.
What if I put this to you and said in there, I believe that that you're being extremely cruel to the animals in there,
Well,
and your workers are being extremely cruel to the animals in there. What would you say to that?
I'd say it's a pack of lies.
Pack of lies?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Anyways, I'm not going to speak on camera. I'm not going to listen to your.
well, I'm just putting things to you that
you don't need to put anything to me. I don't want to speak to
do you own this facility?
I do own the facility.
Okay. And do you believe the animals here are being looked after?
Yes, they are.
They are?
Thank you. Have a good day.
It was clear he wasn't going to talk with the cameras rolling,
All right, stop rolling.
but I had a backup plan.
Actually, stop. Pointing the cameras down. All right, take this.
A hidden camera.
How about that? Can I come talk to you? All right.
Because this was a matter of public interest.
I mean, I don't mind.
If there was animal cruelty going on here, people had a right to know.
Look, I know that whatever I say, or whatever you say, we're never going to agree.
You know my agenda is different to yours.
No,
Okay.
We know that we're never going to agree.
Yeah, not fundamentally, but
No,
maybe
no,
on some things.
No, I don't think we'll ever agree on anything. You like tea, coffee?
No, thank you, brother.
I started by asking for his take on the complaints some of the residents were making.
Absolutely fine.
A gentleman down there told me that the only reason they've got a problem with this place is because it's now halal and they might be racist.
Well, here's the thing, it's all subjective, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Has there been an increase in animals, though, being killed?
So the facility has not been extended. Nothing's ever happened. We've only brought this facility back to its heyday, if you want to call it. So say 10 years ago, whatever they were doing, we're doing the equivalent to what they were doing.
So what do you do to make sure the animals are not being caused extreme suffering?
But I'm the animal welfare officer for the site.
You're the animal welfare officer,
Yeah.
and what do you do to make sure the animals aren't being caused extreme suffering?
Well, we follow the FSA guidelines, we do everything that we can.
In fact, by the time I had this conversation, I'd already collected my hidden camera footage, around 100 hours of it. Several simultaneous camera angles over 10 days, covering every stage of the process. Before, during, and after. The pre-slaughter holding area, the V-type conveyor system in which the sheep are restrained, the point at which a slaughter takes place, and the room where the bodies are hung up and dismembered. A 1 hour 46 minute sample of this footage became the basis of a report by an expert, Jenny Mace, a university lecturer, researcher, and consultant on animal welfare. So I was able to check any statement he made against the best available research, expert opinion, the law, and my covert footage. Much of which is so graphic we can't even show it to you in this video. But if you have the stomach, the uncensored footage is linked in the description below and serves as our evidence.
I want you to tell me what you are doing as an animal welfare officer here to make sure your staff aren't causing extreme suffering to the animals.
Well, I don't know if you know the whole halal concept, right? So the halal concept is not only the point of slaughter, it's everything before the slaughter and at the point of slaughter and after that. So before the slaughter, we make sure that we use reputable suppliers, reputable markets. We make sure we use reputable hauliers. I never deal with somebody over the phone. I always visit their facility. I always, kind of do my background checks. But I've worked with these guys since I was a kid, so I know them for long enough. The markets that we deal with, they're heavily regulated by AIF and what have you, as they should be. We are extremely heavily regulated, as we should be, by the FSA, by other organisations.
Our footage showed animals arriving. The owner/welfare officer clearly visible, supervising. With all he'd said about pre-slaughter animal welfare and being heavily regulated, most people wouldn't expect what came next. Multiple instances of extremely rough handling, confirmed in our expert report as categorically illegal. Dragging sheep by one leg, grabbing them by the neck, throwing them on the ground, slamming them against metal, hitting them and smashing a door into their faces. The animals are not supposed to know what's coming. Clearly, all these know, whatever it is, it's not good. Especially this one. Our report detailed how this would cause much fear and distress in the animals. For these workers, it's funny.
Enough!
It's a non-stun facility here?
It's a non-stun.
Non-stun, traditional halal method here, right? So the animals don't see each other be slaughtered?
No.
Okay.
There's a sliding door that screens off the conveyor until it's time for the kill. But it does little to stop the sheep knowing what's ahead.
They're just terrified trying to escape here.
This was one of several instances of terrified animals jumping the fence. Then being dropped into the conveyor right in front of what's coming.
This animal in the restrainer can see the animal in front of them bleeding and hoisted.
Hoisted up by one leg for dismembering and skinning.
This is way too graphic to even show.
The animals are not suffering for a prolonged period of time from the cut? Okay, so they're not still moving or any signs of life?
In almost every case, we saw agitation after the animals' throats were cut, including foot stamping, kicking or bobbing their heads up and down, struggling, thrashing from side to side, and hitting their heads on metal. Even looking around, opening their mouths and gasping.
Their little tail is wagging. This means they're experiencing pain.
All identified in the report as indicators of consciousness, pain, and distress.
How do they check to see if there's signs of life in the animal?
Yes.
They do this under the eye? Yeah. And everyone's appropriately trained in here?
Yes.
Right?
We did see the workers touch the eyes for signs of consciousness, but this was quite rare. Most of the time the sheep were hoisted with no checks whatsoever.
They're suffocating in their own blood.
Trained operative, very sharp knife, one cut that severs both carotids and both jugulars, and if it does that effectively, the blood supply to the brain, of course, it stops immediately, and within seconds they're out. If it's not an effective cut, then you don't, that an ineffective cut would, in theory, mean that the animal's suffering, which is why you stun it straight away.
And how often does that happen?
Not very often. If there's the right man that's doing the cutting, very
rare.
Very rare.
Okay. And very rare here because you're the animal welfare officer, right? Okay.
In our footage, we saw dozens of animals having to be stunned after their throat was cut. Worse were the botched killings, in which the stunning didn't happen straight away. In a typical case after being cut, a sheep carried on head bobbing for around 40 seconds.
This sheep here is struggling with their throat cut open.
A minute and a half after the cut, the workers tried to move them. The sheep struggled free and writhed on the floor for another 20 seconds.
They're watching the sheep just writhe in pain on the floor.
Then finally, a full 2 minutes 10 seconds after the botch cut, the workers used the stun gun.
We've got cameras all over the facility, inside and outside.
On the kill floor, there's cameras?
There's kill floor, on the kill floor.
Inside the slaughterhouse, you're saying there's CCTV, and who monitors them?
I do.
You monitor them?
Yes.
So if anything's going wrong, that's on you?
Yes.
Okay, so you're taking on a lot of responsibility there for your workers and for your... So you're the owner, you're the animal welfare officer.
So we must know about the incidents of sheep running away after having their throat cut. Many of them. One sheep ran several metres into the area where other sheep were hung up and dismembered.
This one's running away with their throat cut.
Our report pointed out that in non-stun slaughter, an animal should not be moved for at least 20 seconds, and not at all while there are signs of consciousness.
You can't imagine the terror that they're experiencing, the poor little babies.
Yet this happened numerous times. In many cases, only around 10 seconds had passed before the sheep were moved.
Their tail is still wagging, their throat is gashed open, they're being hoisted up.
The law also says they should never be suspended or hoisted while conscious. Our expert noted many instances where sheep were hoisted while not only still struggling, but displaying multiple, extremely likely signs of consciousness. Most reliably, head lifting.
Oh my God, this sheep's horn has got stuck in the bench that they used to bleed the animals out on. Oh, they ripped the horn off, and now he's playing it like a trumpet or a pipe, laughing. And behind him, the same sheep is thrashing around on the hoist.
And worst of all, in total contravention of the law,
there's a sheep still moving and he's about to dismember the animal.
As the report notes, some sheep were still showing potential signs of life over 4 minutes post-cut, and even when dismemberment had commenced, with no attempt being made to check if they were still conscious.
So if Muslims are wanting to buy your meat, they're putting a lot of trust in that the animals have been slaughtered the right way. Whether I believe it's right is a different question, but the right way based on... No, I'm not, of course, my agenda is clear. I'm not here for any other agenda other than the animals. Would you give us some CCTV footage to look at? Why not?
We have no obligation to you. We've got an obligation. We've got an obligation to the FSA, who's a government body who monitor things and make sure that things are done properly. So nothing ever happens on site unless there's an official veterinarian on site who also monitors CCTV. So there's CCTV available for the FSA. They can check whenever they like. So they've got that. But
so they can check whenever they like?
Yes.
We did see an FSA inspector on site on just 5 of the 10 days we filmed. They were only there briefly and never went beyond this point and onto the actual kill floor. We saw botched killings happening right in front of them.
She's not even checking if the animals have lost consciousness.
The FSA guidelines say if an animal shows signs of agitation post-cut, backup stunning equipment should be used immediately. Here it took 25 seconds. He then cuts a second time, after which the sheep was still thrashing and beating their head against the metal conveyor. Just one of the many times we'd seen stunning fail to render sheep unconscious. So when it comes to preventing animal suffering in here, this FSA officer seems to be no use at all. Finally, I put it to the owner that he was just in this for the money. Considering all I'd seen, his answer was surprising.
That's not my agenda. My agenda is, as a Muslim, first thing, we're working in the halal trade, we're providing a service to the Muslim community, that's the second thing. And then the third thing is, I've been in this trade since I was a kid. I've been to a lot of big places. Now I think I can do it better. So it's not financially better, but I think that a small facility means that, like you said, I've got a lot of responsibility and I do a lot of things on site is because it's a small site and I control everything. Because I can control everything. Big sites don't have that.
So you oversee everything and you can make sure that there's not bad things happening, right?
And I would never let that. I'd much rather shut the site than ever let anything bad happen. So like I said, it's...
Can you tell me that, guarantee me that 100%?
Yes.
Say it. I guarantee you that 100%, that there's nothing bad happening here to the animals.
I can guarantee 100% there's nothing bad happening to the animals. As far as I'm concerned, animal welfare is at the top of the agenda.
Well, he certainly tries to come across as a reasonable guy who cares about the welfare of animals. He probably had a similar conversation with one of the people I spoke to earlier.
I've had many conversations with a gentleman who runs it, who owns it. They don't do anything wrong in terms of against the law. In terms of from your point of view, from an animal rights perspective, I've never been behind there when they're working.
Just for my word of advice from me to you, you seem like a reasonable bloke. I would not be vouching for anything that happens behind closed doors, because there's always a facade, isn't there? So you never know. To any Muslims watching this, I would say, behind closed doors and behind the halal label, your trust is being abused. This place presents itself as a small-scale supplier to local halal butchers, the best of the best. You can only imagine what the other places are like, because this place is shocking. In the end, within just an hour and 45-minute sample of the footage, our expert report identified 31 problematic welfare indicators pointing to immense pain, fear and distress for the sheep. Amongst these indicators were 5 illegal types of activity, with most occurring multiple times. And the author subsequently recommended that charges should be brought against this slaughterhouse and or staff for the numerous illegal practices therein. Systemic animal cruelty is nothing new to me. I've seen it not just here, but in every sector of the meat, dairy and egg industries all around the world. So I'd say the only way for not only Muslims, but for anyone to avoid supporting needless cruelty to animals, is to live vegan. As the report notes, both non-stun and stun slaughter are impractical for guaranteeing any acceptable level of animal welfare. The choice is really between whether to kill an animal or not. And to anyone thinking of using what I've uncovered here to stoke hate against the Muslim community, I say this: I do the work I do to help the animals. If you're going to open your mouth about this, first, let me see you get outraged about the systemic and often criminal abuse myself and other animal rights groups have uncovered on so-called high-welfare British farms. Let's see you speak up vehemently against the way 90% of pigs in the UK meet their torturous end for your bacon sandwich, in RSPCA-assured gas chambers. Let me see you all at British slaughterhouses protesting the killing of innocent beings at a fraction of their lifespan. And while you're at it, you better boycott all animal products and live vegan for moral consistency. Prove that this topic is more to you than just a way to stir racist hate. But if you're not prepared to do any of that, then I suggest you keep your mouths closed.